Hi there, Steve Kaufman here. Today I want to talk about languages and politicians. And the reason is that we recently had the selection or the election of the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. His name is Scheer. And so I was kind of curious to know how well he spoke French, because a little less than a quarter of the population of Canada speaks French as their first language. And I believe that anyone who's going to be Prime Minister of Canada, which the leader of the Conservative Party one day, hopefully, or at least, he aspires to become, I think he should speak French and speak it well. So I looked up on YouTube Scheer, who is, I think looking at his CV, he was born in Ottawa. He went to the University of Ottawa. Ottawa is a city that's about 30% French speaking. But then he's been living in Western Canada, where there's not so many French speakers. So I looked him up on YouTube, and his French is really, I would say, how would I call it? It's not fluent. One I think real good test of fluent is, does the speaker make you feel comfortable? When Scheer speaks French, I don't feel comfortable. I think a Francophone who spoke English at all would say, well, thanks for trying, Andrew, but now let's speak English so we can really communicate. He can say things in a speech, but I saw his performance at this candidates debate, and when asked a specific question in French, he had trouble kind of explaining his thoughts. His pronunciation isn't very good. He's not what I consider to be fluent. I think he should be fluent. And so then I thought to myself, here I am. I'm going out to Bratislava. I've spent, probably less than a week on Slovak. I think that I'll be able to defend myself as well in Slovak as he does in French. I have the advantage that I studied Czech for a year, but then that's a year, like an hour and a half a day using Link. Never immersed in Czech. And yet, if I look at my statistics on Link, I have read 1.5 million words of Czech just on Link, not counting books and newspapers that I have read not on the computer. I have, according to the way we counted Link, I have 65,000 known words in Czech. I have saved 55,000 words and phrases. In other words, created links. Those are words that I deliberately, or phrases, highlighted and saved to my database. I have spoken with people, tutors at Link, 50 hours, which isn't very much. So all of that I have done for my Czech, which now can be transferred to some extent because I'm now doing a lot of listening in Slovak. I've downloaded an audiobook with the ebook. I'm working through the ebook at Link and so forth and so on. And in 4 or 5 days in Bratislava, I'm fairly confident that I'll be able to defend myself in Slovak better than Scheer does in French. And I think that, it's interesting. Politicians, it's in different countries, people look at it differently. I know that in Ukraine, for example, the president of Ukraine is a native speaker of Russian, but for political reasons, I've never heard him speak Russian in a public forum, which I find strange. On the other hand, in Ukraine, there are ministers of the Ukrainian government who never speak Ukrainian. They always speak Russian. I don't understand. I don't know in Belgium if the prime minister there speaks both Flemish and French. I would think he should. I don't know what the situation is in Switzerland. But certainly in Canada, although many Anglophones don't agree, I think that anyone who aspires to be Prime Minister should be comfortable in French and in English. So I would hope that Mr. Scheer will spend the time to listen and read. It's not good enough to get a tutor who teaches him about the subjunctive and other niceties of the language. He actually has to expose himself to a lot of the language through listening and reading. And so I would welcome him to Link. I'd be happy to give him advice on how to, get the most out of Link. And I hope that in the next 2 years, the Canadian election is going to be in 2019, that he would be able to get his French level up by that time. Just a quick note to end up here. Yeah, by the way, I am going to Bratislava, and I'm going to spend 5 days there at this polyglot gathering. Then I'm going to Ukraine, where for 6 days I'm going to do 3 hours of Russian in the morning and 3 hours of Ukrainian in the afternoon to try and improve the level of those languages at a school, which is not something I normally do. We'll see, how that works out, and I'll probably make some videos while I'm there. Now, on the Conservative Party of Canada, just for those people who aren't familiar with Canadian politics, there's a lot of debate in the US, liberals and conservatives, and what does a conservative mean, and we're proud conservatives and all this stuff that you hear. I would say a good portion, probably the majority of people who vote conservative in Canada would be moderate Democrats in the United States. Certainly, I think most of them are not interested in making issues of sort of social conservatism like same-sex marriage or pro-life versus pro-choice. They don't want to make these issues. They don't want those to be front and center. They aren't part of the party platform. People can hold the views that they want, but the law is the law, and the Conservative Party is not going to challenge those laws. Similarly, I don't think there's anyone in the Conservative Party who would be opposed to single-payer universal health care. Many Canadians feel that our system should be more flexible. We should have more private delivery, more flexibility such as they have in Europe. I don't think our medical system is by any means the best of the universal, comprehensive coverage systems in the world, but the principle of everyone being covered, I don't think there's a conservative who would oppose that in Canada. I would vote conservative because I think that the present Liberal government is spending money that they don't have. I think that, I favor social spending. I favor spending money on education, on health, even on child care, but then tax people for it. Let people know what it's costing them. Don't, put this on future generations via these large deficits that they're running up. And I don't believe that, certainly the evidence from Northern Europe is that you can have a somewhat higher level of taxation. It doesn't kill entrepreneurship, so I don't buy that argument either. A big reason why I support the Conservatives is that I believe that in Canada there is such a thing as a Canadian identity, a Canadian culture, a sense of belonging that we have as Canadians, and the Liberal government is far too prone to promoting this idea that the Canadian identity is diversity, that there is no mainstream culture, the more diverse we are, the better, and I don't believe that. I think diversity is essentially irrelevant. You can be in a community where they're all, whatever, of one origin. Perhaps in Quebec they're all Francophone people with French names, or in Nova Scotia there's no immigrants, whatever. It doesn't matter. And within a generation or two, all these immigrants eventually assimilate to the Canadian mainstream, and that we should be encouraging people to join the broader community and making them feel welcome, and saying that it doesn't matter what your name is, what you look like, you're equally representative of what it is to be a Canadian, but we don't encourage you. You may do whatever you want on your own, but we as a government shouldn't be encouraging people to identify with their countries of origin. They'll do that on their own very happily if they feel like it. So, and because the new leader, Andrew Scheer, has come out strongly in favor of this sense of Canadian identity, let people join the mainstream, as opposed to what Justin Trudeau and his Liberals are doing, then I support the Conservatives. Let's not run these horrendous deficits. Let's not promote the idea that there is no Canadian identity. And so to that extent, I support the Conservatives. But I do not buy into any of this sort of conservatism that seems to be, front and center with the Republican Party of the United States. I don't even understand it. I don't know where those people are coming from. And I think to that extent, I'm quite representative of people of a majority of people who would vote for the Conservatives here in Canada. Anyway, there you have it, a little bit about politicians and language. I hope Andrew Scheer improves his French, and we would love to help him out here at Link. So if anybody knows Andrew Scheer, tell him that I'm happy to help him out. I would like him to be fluent in French so that he can win the next election. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.